When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
1, 2, 3, 4. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast.
What's up, guys? This is Grant for Brutally Delicious with another first impression review. This time round, I have been sent Dark Pulse by Priest. Now, normally when Bruce sends me stuff to review for Brutally Delicious, there's a little bit of consistency with it. I'm a singer in a death metal band, so what I get generally goes along those lines. We're talking, I don't like Jesus, we're talking cut people up, we're talking and this is not one of those albums at all. I put this album on with that title, expecting aggressive metal, and what I was met with was 8-bit sounds, more akin to the Human League than Human Dissection. But let's be clear, that's not a slur. As you can tell by my accent, I am English. And having grown up in the 90s, England has an illustrious history of dark electronic music. We're talking Pop Will Eat Itself, Carter the Unstoppable Sex Machine, the KLF, and of course, The Prodigy, redefining the way that electronic music was used. So, let's go ahead and get into this. Going to break down a couple of tracks to begin with, because it's definitely got that 80s feel to it. There's elements of the new romantic era. There's certain little elements in here that are going way back to sort of 70s disco and funk and what have you, but it's got this sleazy darkness to it that I'm really, really enjoying. Tracks of note, track 2, Black Venom. Anybody that's familiar with the 70s and 80s music will be familiar with the track Somebody's Watching Me by Rockwell. And this has definitely got that kind of feel to it. It's got a throbbing bass line, a very kind of Halloween-y, spooky-inspired rhythm pattern going on. It works. Track 3, Demon's Call. You listen to this track and you can picture this song being used as like the background for a seduction scene in some 80s film noir masterpiece. It's got a romanticism to it, but again, there's this dark eroticism going on in the background of this that just it keeps your interest piqued. Track 5, Golden Gate. This has got a bit more of a modern vibe to it, but it's still keeping that bitty 80s feel to it. The only way I can describe this song is if you imagine when Trent Reznor was recording Downward Spiral and he looked at his sample pack and thought, I'm not going to use that, I'm going to use a Sega Mega Drive instead. That's definitely the vibe that this has got going on. It's got that feel of stuff like Closer and Head Like a Hole. Again, going back to it again, this kind of dark, sleazy eroticism in the background. It's cool. Track 8, Enter Your Body. Again, with a title like that, I've mentioned it before, I'm not going to say it again, but it does have these really filthy sexual undertones to it. And from a musical perspective, it's got like a final boss vibe to it, is the only way that I can describe it. Gamers will know what I'm talking about here when you've played stuff on 16-bit, 32-bit systems, the way that the music would change. And then finally, I'm going to go for the last track here, Chaos Reigns, ending the album off here with a very dark ballad with some kind of progressive elements to it. It's a good album closer. And the rest of the tracks on there that I haven't mentioned are just as strong as the ones that I have. I haven't not mentioned them because they're duds or anything like that. Just these were the standout tracks from what I've seen so far. Technically speaking, we're looking at a good balanced mix. The synth drums that have been used are nice. They pop, they're crisp, they come through. There's a good balance with all of the samples that I've got going on. The vocals, I've mentioned sleaze, I've mentioned eroticism already, but I've got to keep going with that because that's the big selling point that we've got with this album is there's this dirtiness to it, coming out of the 80s and into the 90s a little bit. The way the guy delivers his vocals, you can imagine him as being kind of a Jarvis Cocker from Pulp, or Brett Anderson from Suede kind of type, like slightly campy but sexualized, but that's not reminiscent of the power behind this guy's voice. The closest voice I would get to this fella that's singing would be Tony Hadley from Spandau Ballet. It's got an almost operatic level of tone going on, not overboard, you know, he's not screaming tenor notes in such a way that dominates the tunes, but anybody that listens to that kind of stuff is going to know what I'm saying here. And as far as the song structure is concerned, this is electronic music, and what is good to hear is that Priest have not looked at these songs simply as standalone. The structure there, with the way the intros work, mid-sections, breakdowns, that kind of thing, it's structured with DJs in mind, which when you're talking about electronic music, you need to think about the people that are playing it and making life easy for them, bringing it into tunes, mixing it back out of tunes, and that's done very well. There's plenty space for the people that would be playing this in clubs to put their own slant on the way that this music is delivered, which is what you want when you're listening to electronic music. You know, it's not stop, start, stop, start. Let the DJ do their work. And that's going to happen with this. I don't rate my albums. I never have. I've only done 3, but I'm not going to start now. If you like Cannibal Corpse, Deicide, Slayer, you're probably not going to like this. But if you've got a bit of an open mind, if you're a little bit eclectic in your musical tastes and you will go back and listen to stuff like Sisters of Mercy, if you're going to go back and listen to stuff like Spandau Ballet, like Duran Duran, if you're going to get and listen to stuff like Pop Elite itself, KLF, Prodigy, or even some of the Brit poppy indie stuff that came out of Britain in the 90s, you're going to absolutely love this. It's a good album. If electronic is your vibe, get stuck in, because you're going to enjoy this. This has been Grant for Brutally Delicious, signing off.
Hey, this is Dewey Halpus, host of Peer Pleasure on the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. Join me each week as I explore another long-form conversation with one of your favorite musicians, actors, comedians, or creatives. From Chino Moreno of the Deftones, John Gorley of Portugal the Man, to Fat Mike from NoFX and Ian MacKaye from Fugazi and Minor Threat, we go all over the map. From Fall Out Boy to Slayer, Peer Pleasure has it all. Check us out now on Sound Talent Media.